Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. I'm so grateful to have you here, sharing in this space of growth, healing, and transformation. If you've already subscribed to Loving Everything, thank you for being a part of this beautiful community. Your support means so much, and together, we're creating a space where love in all its forms can be explored and embraced. As you listen to this episode, if it resonates with you, I invite you to like the video and share it with anyone who might benefit from the insights we're diving into today. These conversations are all about expanding our capacity to love ourselves, each other, and the world around us. And if you enjoy what you hear, don't forget to explore my other episodes where we journey into love's deepest, most unconditional forms. Each one is an invitation to reconnect with the parts of yourself that are waiting to be seen, healed, and loved. So thank you for being here. Let's begin. Hi, Connie.
Hello, Andrea.
I am so excited to have you on today. You are so special to me.
The feeling's very mutual. I feel the same way about you, Andrea.
You came into my life at a really great time. There was a very large void in my life, and I also have been in a transition of a different relationship to my family in this past year. And so I'm really grateful for the time that I get to spend with you. For everyone watching and listening, Connie and I are both on a board for Tigard Turns the Tide, which is local here in near Portland, Oregon. And we are passionate about helping youth with prevention. And also, it sounds like we have some overlap with being enthusiastic about prevention for trauma as well.
Yes.
Due to our histories. Yeah. So we're just going to start off simple, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Where were you born, or where did you grow up?
I was born in Kern, California, which was actually China Lake. It was a naval base. My birth dad, he was in the Navy.
My birth dad was in the Navy as well.
Oh.
And I have not heard of where that is in California. Where is that?
It's in the desert. Kern, yeah. It's in the desert between Las Vegas and California.
Okay, so out there in the east. Okay, so more like kind of like by Death Valley almost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
hot.
Very, yeah.
Is it near Barstow?
I'm not sure because I've never
travel.
been back. No.
You haven't been back?
No. I did grow up in Southern California.
You did?
But didn't go back to my birthplace.
Okay. So where did you grow up in Southern California? Because I grew up in Southern California as well.
Yes. Well, my grandmother, who I love so dearly, she actually took care of me in my very early age. When I was born, I didn't thrive to live, and they didn't think I was going to make it. But my grandma took me in, nursed me back to health, and it was in San Bernardino, California, and that's actually where my youngest years were. And then my mom remarried, and my dad actually adopted me and my brother when we were 8, but he was from Pomona, California. So we also lived in Pomona.
Okay. So different dad than your biological dad adopted you? Okay.
I really didn't know my biological dad.
Okay. All right. So you grew up in Southern California. You're mostly raised by your grandmother. It sounds like you, as a baby, and had anticipated that a lot was going to happen in your environment. That's generally a failure to thrive. I'm noticing in in my own studies through the MA program that the baby is listening to the environment the entire time she's in the womb. And the baby is also receiving all of the hormones that the mother is experiencing. So if it's a high stress or high stress environment, the baby's also receiving the cortisol and the feedback from that, right?
That is so interesting.
Isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And I suspected that we impact our children from the moment that they are conceived. But yeah, it's very interesting to see the statistics and how that also evolves in a child and an adult. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yes, very.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It really does.
So you're very grateful for your grandmother.
Oh, as growing up, when my mom and dad actually settled down, I was 4 and my brother was 5. I would lay in bed at night and cry for my grandma. And so I did. She was very much a part of my life right up until the day she died.
When did she die?
It was in 1995. 1995.
So you got her for most of your childhood.
Yes,
okay.
I did. I
okay.
did. Yeah.
I bet you're grateful for that.
She molded me into the person
That you are
that I am.
today.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
She was very loving, giving, caring. She was very protective of me.
Oh, I'm so glad you had her. What's something that you absolutely cannot live without?
Something I cannot. My faith. I can't live without my faith. I'm a convert to our church, and my faith has made once I grasp hold of it, it changed my whole life. Yeah. And having a higher power to turn to in moments of joy and moments of pain and moments of need, I owe it all to my higher power, because I would not be who I am today without that.
Mm-hmm. Something to believe in, something larger than yourself.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Also something to stay connected to.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I understand. What's one thing people close to you know that others probably wouldn't?
I have to think about that.
Yeah, take your time.
Possibly my love for my family. Although other people probably know that about me, but my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren are my whole world. And my husband and I have built a legacy that is undeniable, one of the most priceless gifts we have. Yeah, and I don't know if everyone knows I feel that way or not, but
I'm not surprised.
well, I just growing up, I wasn't. My mom and dad, I knew they loved me. I don't ever remember them hugging me or saying "I love you" because they were old school.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, dad who adopted, he was in the Army. He was in the Korean War, and he was a pretty tough cookie on the outside, but a teddy bear on the inside. But it was often you're to be seen and not heard. And that was society back then.
Yes, it was.
And when I realized how important my family was, we hug, we kiss, we are on the phone, and we don't hang up with each other unless we say I love you. Yeah. And same with texts, you know. So I don't know if everyone knows how much my family means to me, but they're my world.
Well, it's pretty that's not the word I'm looking for. It's pretty obvious in the way in how you interact even with students who are not yours. So I can only imagine the closeness that you share with the people that you love the most.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you.
Welcome. Let's see. What are you naturally gifted in?
I think accepting others for who they are, in the way the world is today. And I've come to realize that a gift I have is to accept people where they're at. We have so much turmoil and so much riff and, contention. And I know the one way I can break down contention is to accept people. Maybe they believe differently than I do, but don't argue. I feel like, I'll say, I respect that, even though I might feel differently. And especially working with students, just loving them for who they are. I've just learned that it's so, so important. If I'm going to be an example, that's what I try to teach them, to love and accept others, because so many times things happen and I have kids come and talk to me and they've been bullied, and so I talk them through it. Mostly it's just listening, but also reassuring them that, you are who you are. It's okay. That's their problem, not yours, is the kind of things I share with them so that they don't feel so beat up and run down.
And isolated and alone in their experience.
Yes. That's big.
It is big.
Yeah.
Especially when you're being bullied.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What a gift. What's your favorite way to express love?
And my friends would say this too. I love to give gifts.
It's gift
giving.
too.
It's gift giving, by all means. I just love to give.
I do too. Why do you think that is, Connie? I mean, I suspect I know, but why do you think that is?
It's the way I can express myself, and usually I look for gifts that are meaningful to that person.
Yep.
It's not just giving anything or anything that I see, but it's, for instance, I have a dear friend who, she just had surgery, and she loves unique plants. And I found this unique plant that I've never seen before. And so I got her one, and I went back and I got myself one also. And so when I saw it, I said, that's her. That's what I'm giving her, And it's that kind of thing. When I see something that reminds me of somebody, I'll just get it for them.
Yeah. I do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
As so much that I have the reputation that I have an actual closet that is specific, or like even since I was a teenager, I realized at one point, I think in college, that if I bought gifts around the year as opposed to all before Christmas, that then I just was already prepared and it wasn't as financially devastating. But then also, it's easier to buy gifts when you see something that reminds you of the person, and or you're with them and they're looking at something and you can tell they really want it, but then they pass along. And then, so like I've been known to like either go back or call the store or go and get it. And I suspect, Connie, or at least this is what I told my last partner, the reason why I give gifts the way that I do is because I didn't receive the gifts that were meaningful for me.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true. Yeah.
Would you say that that has been your experience as well?
Oh, yes, I would. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much so. And I'm not the one, I don't want anything in return.
Yeah, same.
I'd rather not have anything in return.
Yeah.
I just love to give. But like you, Andrea, I have bins full of gifts because I buy all year long.
Yes.
I don't know if this is going to be the last year. I keep saying that every year, but I have 7 children. I have 16 grandchildren.
Oh my goodness.
And I have 9 great-grandchildren. And at Christmas time, I buy for everyone.
That's incredible.
Because I love
You
it.
have such an incredible family.
Yeah. But I just love gift buying and gift giving.
I'm so glad that you got to create that family for yourself.
Me too. Me too.
Makes me emotional. Okay, so what did you love to do as a child?
I loved being out in nature. There was something about, so we moved around a lot, but a couple of things that I did as a child, my aunt and uncle babysat us, and they lived on a farm, and they had huge walnut trees, and we would spend days making a house out of cardboard out in the open where the trees were, and we'd play house. Other things that I did, we lived in Powers, Oregon. I don't know if anyone knows where that's at, but it's a little town in Oregon. And
where is it in Oregon? South? South of us? It has to be south of us.
It is south of us.
Yeah.
South.
East.
Again, I should have looked at a map.
It's okay.
But,
because it's not near the coast.
No.
So it has to be east of us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's, I don't think it's that far from the border, but I think it's east, east and south from here.
Okay.
But I think I was 9 or 10, and I had a job. And I had a few clients where I would go out and pick berries, blackberries. And I'd go out on a dirt road where they just grew everywhere.
Yeah.
And I would pick blackberries for them. And then I would get maybe 50 cents a jar or whatever, But because this was back in, the 50s. So, and I just remember feeling the peacefulness. And I know we can't do that today. It's not safe. But back then it was so safe to be by yourself. And I would love to just take walks, out in nature. We lived somewhere where I had to walk almost a mile to school, and I had to go through, different fields to get there. And I just loved it. So I think just being out in nature,
because it's healing.
it lifts me.
Yeah. Why do you think that it's unsafe now as opposed to in the 50s? I have my own opinions about it.
Yes. Well, as my kids started growing up and started kids within our neighborhood and around us and in other communities were being abducted. And there were people looking for children that were alone. And nowadays it's just them walking to school. But I mean, if someone were to be out in a field by themselves, who knows what might happen to them? And I guess my parents and I just trusted that no bear or animal would come after me, but it never happened, because I guess maybe I was protected. But nowadays I think there's just a lot of, illegal things happening.
So you think there's substantially more crime happening now as opposed to back then?
I feel it.
You feel it?
I do, yes. And I've seen it watching my own kids grow up.
Okay.
And my girls, when they were in upper elementary, I wouldn't let them go by themselves. They had to either go together, stick together. They wanted to go down to the school to play on the playground. I just didn't feel it was safe because kids are constantly being abducted from parks where there's a play area and there's a lot of kids. So I'm a little overprotective, but I just think out of caution whenever they wanted to ride bikes. I mean, I used to ride my bike all around the neighborhood, up and down the streets by myself.
I did too.
Yeah, and I just don't think it's as safe today. It's better to be cautious. It might be fine, but
Yeah.
I never wanted to take the chance.
Yeah. Well, you worked hard to create a family that you didn't have. And so they were precious to you.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Can you share a childhood memory that you've never shared before? Or maybe you've never shared on a podcast before.
Childhood memory. Well, one memory I have, so my parents, they worked very, very hard. They both had jobs. They worked hard to provide for us, but we were often left alone a lot of the time. And my mom came from a very poor family. They had 7 children, and didn't have any money. My mom said they used to have to use clothes to cover up with as blankets. They used to search the trash bins for food. And so, my mom and Dad both wanted more for us than what they had.
Yeah, of
and they
course.
worked very, very hard. But we were left alone on our own a lot. And I remember one thing, I had an uncle, an aunt and uncle, who were pretty poor too. And they weren't very clean, and their kids were always straggly. And at a very young age, I remember every time I was around them, I would take my little cousins, I would give them a bath, I would wash their hair, I would clean them up. I would ask my mom if I had some clothes that I could give to my cousin, because, her clothes are all dirty and ripped.
Yeah.
And the childhood memory is that I loved to help those that were less fortunate. In school, I always searched out that one person that was kind of left alone and didn't have any friends.
Me too.
And I'm so thankful for that.
Sometimes I was that person. And then I would go and find the other person.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I just guess it was, and I think I learned it from my grandma. My grandma taught me a lot about giving and, caring. So.
What was your grandmother's name?
Willa May.
Willa May?
Willa May.
Wow.
And my middle name is May after her.
Aw.
I'm Connie May.
That's so sweet. Willa May. Okay. What is one of your earliest memories of feeling love, and who was it with?
Again, probably my grandma. I remember my grandpa too, though. I remember, so I had asthma as a little kid.
I did too.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, do we have a lot in common, Andrea?
Do you know why?
Why?
The metaphysical reason behind it, or at least I learned this in Waldorf education because I became a Waldorf high school teacher. And one of the educators told me this. A lot of children who were smothered by a parent, emotionally smothered by a parent or controlled by a parent, end up with asthma because they can't breathe. They literally can't breathe.
Oh, interesting. And it was just childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew out of it.
I did too.
Yeah. But I remember not feeling well. And my grandpa had one leg amputated. It was from when he was in the service.
War. Yeah.
But he had this big, huge chair. And I remember climbing up in the chair, him rubbing my head and rubbing my face till I fell asleep. And then I don't know how I got in bed. I imagine my grandma picked me up and carried me into bed. But I must have only been like 3 or 4. But I can still remember. And even when after we went to live with my mom and dad, and I'd go back to visit, and I'd spend summers there, my grandpa would do the same thing. So, yeah, and I just remember how he would rub my face until I fell asleep, because sometimes I would have a hard time falling asleep. Yeah.
Everyone needs a grandpa to rub their face so they can fall asleep.
Yeah.
What a wonderful parental figure to have in your life as anchor.
Yes, very much so. Very much so, because my childhood wasn't always easy.
No,
No,
it was not.
There's some really rough times, but they taught me how to feel loved, true love.
Were they your maternal grandparents?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's my mom's mom and dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so were you close to your mother as well?
Me?
Yes.
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I became close to her once, especially after when we moved together, my brother and I and my mom and dad. I came to really know her, but I never was really that close to my mom until after I grew up.
Okay. All right. We'll probably get to that. What qualities do you most admire in a woman?
Confidence, and yet humility in a way that, they speak and interact, meaning that they speak with confidence, but in a kind, gentle way, And women that really do have eye contact with you and care about what you're saying. You're one of those ladies, Andrea, so much so, because
you and I have a very special relationship.
Yeah,
We
eye
connected
contact's
immediately.
important.
It is. I
And-
agree with you. I think immediately we recognized each other.
And I think that a woman who feels self-confident, loves herself, and can speak and show, that in the way they walk, in the way they talk, in the way they look.
Yeah. What about in a man?
Gentleness. Gentleness. A man that can be kind and gentle, and again, be able to have eye contact and to speak with meaning, and to give compliments, true compliments, not just to get somebody, on their side, but, that really does care. Working at the high school and with so many teachers, there are so many teachers that have this genuine quality of really caring,
You would have to
Yeah,
be in that profession. I mean, I know from my own experience, I think that teachers are very undervalued.
Yeah.
Very undervalued, and they go unnoticed for the work that they do. They're oftentimes that anchor of support for children because they spend more time with that child than even the parents do.
Oh, and I see that. And there's a handful of men teachers that do exactly that, that are amazing. And I learn from I learn from every time I interact with them. But they'll say hi to you when you walk by. Hello, how's your day going?
Yeah.
You know, and it's genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would add to that and say that men recognize that I admire when men recognize their power.
Yes. Yeah. And respect it.
And they are gentle with
Yes.
it.
Yeah. And yet strong, you know, strong in the sense that
They're protecting us.
you know, they'll protect you.
Yeah.
And that's how my husband, that not so much now that he is disabled, but he was always my protector. And I never feared. There's a lot of things I'm afraid of, and he would just protect me from. So, yeah.
What makes you feel most loved now?
I think the work I do. You know, I am so humbled and thankful to work with these students, to be able to get close to them. But I truly feel a relationship with them, and that they love me. They love me for who I am.
They love you so much.
I mean, it's just so rewarding. At my age, people say, "You're still working?" I said, to me, it's not working. It's a passion. It's my mission, because the things that we do really do help these young people grow and develop to reach their full potential. And we had 6 seniors that just graduated this last week, and every single one of them hugged me and told me how much it meant to them that they had this time with me. And I said, you know, really, and they're amazing. They really are amazing. So I just think that really makes me feel loved beyond family, beyond, you know, a lot of things make me feel loved, but that's the number one.
Yeah.
The number one thing.
You're very valued.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
All right. Perfect timing. What has been your greatest lesson in love so far?
Would you repeat that one more time?
What has been your greatest lesson in love so far?
The greatest lesson in love. Probably learning to love those that I disagree with. You know,
Tell us more about that, Connie.
well, so, yeah,
I bet you have some pearls of wisdom.
you know, I have been married twice before. And my first husband, you know, he cheated on me. He took very good care of me, but there wasn't a love between us. He was very controlling. My second husband, he became very physical. He was very abusive many, many times, not only to me, but to my children. And through it all, both of them, I learned to forgive and to love them. My first husband and I, to this day, we are friends. We can be in the same room together. We are Facebook friends together. He's remarried. He's got a sweet little Korean wife. You know, I just love him for who he is. And my second husband, he did pass away. He was a drug addict and alcoholic, and he died of liver cancer at a it was probably about 4 years after we had divorced.
Wow.
Yeah. So but I came to forgive him, and I felt sorry for him.
I'm sure you did.
But it also, I learned to love him because he gave me a child. And this child's very, very special to me, and my husband now has adopted him. But I think that's been my biggest lesson, because it's to love those that have hurt us, that disagree with us, learning to turn the other cheek. Sometimes seeing things in people that where they are so full of anger and hatred, and just learning to turn away, but also to learn to look for the good in them, because everybody has good in them, and to learn to love those things in them that, stand out. Yeah.
What was it like growing up in your family?
Okay, I had a very, very hard childhood. Like I said, at a very young age, I thrived to live. My grandmother nurtured me and gave me life and taught me how to love. But I had a couple of uncles that were very cruel, and I wasn't the only niece that they did this to, but we were sexually abused on a regular basis. And we were sworn to secrecy, and so I never, ever brought it up or said anything. And it wasn't till I was 14 that my cousin is 2 months older than me, that we connected about it. And the same thing happened to her throughout her life. And so I really did lose my identity, but I was always striving to thrive. And I think I was protected by a higher power, because I often would block it out. I just, felt very put upon. I felt, I had lost my self-worth through all that. But then getting involved in high school, my parents working so hard for us and really letting us have freedom. We were left on our own so much, but I always chose the higher road, which I'm so thankful for. I didn't get into drugs or alcohol. I hung out with good kids at school, and so school became my lifesaver and my whole life. And so that really did save me. And then, like I say, I think through my 2 marriages, I kind of again lost my identity, my self-esteem, but I always loved people. I always cared about people, to the point that people would walk on me. They would take advantage of me. And I learned so much through my second marriage. I started going to Al-Anon, and that's where it opened a whole new world for me. And I learned to cope. I learned to gain confidence in myself, that I could, gain the courage to do whatever I needed to do to save myself. And this is pretty traumatic, but my second husband actually held me at gunpoint. And when he let me go, I was able to file a complaint. They came and arrested him. I was able to get away with my children. And that's when I realized I needed something more. And I had tried some counseling, but it wasn't really what I needed. And Al-Anon was the answer. And again, learning and reading the book, learning the 12 steps taught me so much about life, I gained back my identity. I gained back the confidence, and really put me on a right path. And so then, that's what my earliest childhood and later adulthood was like.
First, thank you so much for your bravery in sharing that. I know it's a very vulnerable and sensitive topic. And even though you're far away from it now, I'm sure there's a part that's still alive within you. How old were you, if you don't mind me asking? Do you remember how old you were when this all began with your uncles?
I was very little. I was like 3.
Okay.
3 or 4. I was,
Really young.
Yeah.
And when you were 14 and you and your cousin finally connected about it and told each other, did you end up telling anyone in your family?
No.
You held that secret your entire life?
I finally told my mom.
You did tell your mom?
Later in life. She was, it was much, much later in life.
Yeah.
In fact, she physically wasn't doing well, and she came to live with us. And this was in 2000, I want to say 2005, 2006. And my mom was in her 80s. She was 79 or 80. And I finally told her about it. But no one else, because it was actually her brother, her 2 brothers, that, it was happening from.
And what was her reaction?
At first, I don't know if she believed me. I think she was in denial.
Yeah.
But then as I expressed and told her more about it, she says, well, that's over with, and she just kind of swept it aside.
Wow.
And my uncle was alive at that time, and he had even come to visit our home at one point. Yeah.
You let him in your home.
But I forgave him. I really did, because through my education and through my counseling, I came to realize that he was mentally ill, and I won't go into detail, but he wasn't to the point where it was horrible, awful. There was no penetration or anything, but it was, definitely
fondling,
molestation. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And and I'm sure his daughters probably experience the same thing.
I'm sure.
So I just was able to forgive him, and it was all because of, where I was at and I learned about trauma, about childhood trauma, ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and the importance of facing it, working through it ourselves, and letting go. I was able to let go of my past. Yeah.
And realize that it's a story that happened to you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So where was I going with that? Wow, I still just so shocked that you let him in your house as an adult. Okay, so we'll shift gears. We'll shift gears. What were the relationships you would... Okay, I know what I was going to ask you. I just remembered, sorry. Okay, so these were still the sons of the grandparents with the father that caressed your head when you fell asleep.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, possibly because in growing up, they were so poor, and they moved around a lot. And and there was a lot of spare time. My mom remembers many times not even attending school. You know, she never completed high school. I'm not sure how far she did go in school, but I think my uncles, their brothers, it was probably just part of entertainment for them. You know, because when you look at society today and you look at family dynamics, it happens a lot in families. And so whether it's a mental illness or it's something where the boy or man feels like they need to be in control or have power over someone, I think all that plays into it.
Of course.
And if they can prey on a little child, I mean, they're going to take advantage of that. And so just in the education that I've learned and the things that I've studied, I think a lot of it is just where they are at mentally. And it's a weakness, a real weakness, and a lack of closeness to parents. Not having that closeness with your parents.
That's what I was going to ask.
Because every one of our kids, we both, because Don, my husband, he can't ever remember his parents talking to him about sex or relationships. But that was something, as soon as our kids showed interest, we were very open about it. And about the respect that, you know, guys have for girls and girls have for guys. You know, it was very important to both of us because of what I went through. Yeah.
Do you think that your grandparents had come to an age where they were able to identify or at least recognize in some way, maybe inwardly, not necessarily outwardly, but outwardly definitely through their actions, that they were able to give to you in a way that they did not have the time for or the capacity for their own children? Do you think that's why you were so special to them?
I think so, Andrea. I think my grandma, well, the fact that my grandma saved my life, you know, nursed me back to health, it was kind of, I was, you know, it was her mission to save me and to take care of me. And she was always protective of me. My older brother would tease me a lot. She wouldn't allow it. She wouldn't allow it. And so I think that I gave them an opportunity to really show love and care.
Yeah. Okay. Now we can move on. I feel complete there. If you could change one thing about your parents, what would it be?
That they would have shown me more of how they felt about me in the open, you know, that they would have hugged me, that they would have given me compliments when I did something right or something good. I don't ever remember receiving a compliment. They were very proud of me because my brother kind of took the other road. He went down the other road. And so, you know, there was a lot of issues with him. And that was a lot of why I was left on my own, because a lot of their time and energy was put into my brother. He had tried to take his life.
Wow.
At one point.
At gunpoint? Is that what you said? Oh,
no,
at one point.
Sorry, at one point.
You.
And but he went into the Marines and became very successful as a Marine, which changed his whole life.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
But I just remember as a teen, he had a very, very rough, hard teenage life, and Mom and Dad were putting a lot of time and energy into them, and I was just kind of pushed to the side, and I'm this sweet little innocent daughter that, you know, they fully trusted. And I did. I just found my own way.
Yeah, you did.
And I would
You
have liked
parented yourself.
Yeah, I would have liked more recognition from them, and because I really didn't feel loved, not in the sense that the way I love my kids,
Of course.
or even a fraction of the way I love my kids.
I'm sure. I'm sure. If you could change anything about how you were raised, what would it be?
You know, actually, I don't think it would be anything because, Andrea, I would not be who I am today without all those experiences. Sorry, I'm a little teary.
That's okay.
I am grateful that I had the experiences I had because I know that it's through hardships, it's through hard times, it's through those obstacles. If we can learn to rise above them, to come out on the end a better person, that's the only way to grow and learn. And so really, people have often felt sorry for me, and I said, oh, please don't feel sorry for me. Don't, because I have learned to be who I am, because from birth to now, all my experiences have been for my own good.
You're such an inspiration. Can you tell us more about the major hurdles that you've had to overcome in your life?
Sure, the major hurdles. So
It sounds like you, at one point, were in a domestic violence situation.
oh yes, it was awful. It was unbearable.
How did you get through that? What was...
My faith. I had recently found my faith, and I know to this day it's only my higher power that led me through that whole experience.
Did you have community, or did you have any family? Or
I had my church community.
Okay.
Yes, I didn't have family, so we lived up on Queen Anne Hill in Washington, and we lived in this house, and it was after the fact of him holding me at gunpoint, and he had gone through a change, and I had actually left. So just a little bit about this. So when we lived over in Otis, Oregon, you know,
this is
near
before
Lincoln
you
City.
lived before you lived in Queen Anne's
Yes.
Hill in
And-
Washington.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's where he had held me at gunpoint. I had become pregnant, but I didn't know it. And he had thrown me up against the table. And then after he had held us all at gunpoint, and I was able to get him arrested, I left. My dad came and picked me up and drove me back to California. And I lived in California and in Long Beach. But my pregnancy, I had to be hospitalized from the time I was first found out I was pregnant, because when he threw me up against the table, I formed a blood clot. And so a blood clot had formed, and they could not give me they had to give me heparin, which bypassed the placenta for the baby to be healthy. So I relied on my church community at that time to take care of my kids, to do so much. My mom and dad lived in Anaheim, California, which was a ways away, and they were there to help, but it was basically my church community. And one of my very, very best friends that I grew up with lived in that area. So I had a lot of friends that helped. They helped with food. They helped with babysitting. So when I was 6 months pregnant, they thought would be fine. The blood clot had pretty much dissolved, and I was able to get out of the hospital, but had to take it really, really easy. Well, then he wasn't due until September, but he ended up coming 6 weeks early because my water broke. And I had a very difficult delivery. The cord was wrapped around his neck.
Wow.
For the first 24 hours, we didn't know if he was going to make it.
Wow.
They had to put him into the children's hospital, and it was 3 weeks before I was able to visit him.
Wow.
Well, I was able to visit him, but 3 weeks before I could really hold him. Yeah. And so, but we think of him as a miracle baby. But in the meantime, that's when David had gone through all these changes, and I went back to him because...
What do you mean changes?
Well, he had quit drinking.
Okay.
He had quit drugs. He had, we were having conversation, and he expressed how much he loved me and cared about me.
Yeah.
And so...
You wanted to believe him.
Yeah. And
I know about
getting
that.
advice from counselors that were working with him. They felt he had really made the change.
Yeah.
And so I did. I went back
You
with
trusted
him.
him.
And little Tim was just tiny at the time. He was like 2 months old. And then almost 2 months to the day, things were great. Were
Of course
perfect.
they were, until they weren't.
Until they weren't. And then we moved to Queen Anne Hill. And that's where things went from bad to worse. And I found a bunch of loaded guns up in the closet.
A bunch of loaded guns.
Yes, there were 2 pistols and 2 rifles. And I knew that I needed to leave. So I snuck and left. And that was it. I never went back. But he tried to get me to come back. I never went back. I went to live with the friends in Otis that, I lived with early on, and they kind of nurtured me back and helped me, and I got a job. I lived in Lincoln City at the time. I got my own place. I was getting ready to buy my own home, raising my 3 children, and then something told me it's time to move back to California. Then I moved back to California and went to a church meeting, a church dance, met my husband. The rest is history. But I mean...
You met your husband now
Yes.
in California, but then you moved back to Oregon.
Yes. I brought him to Oregon on a vacation, him and all the kids. He had 2 girls, and I had 3 kids. I had 2 sons and a daughter. We put our 2 families together, and we went on a vacation. And we were married in March, and we went on a vacation in July, and he fell in love with Oregon. He applied for a job at Tektronix, got the job, so we moved to Oregon. And we lived in the same house in Tigard, Oregon ever since.
I've
And
been to
that's
that house.
when my life started.
That's when your life as you know it started.
Yes.
Okay. For those who may not know, what is Tigard Turns the Tide, and what role do you play in it?
So I am honored to talk about Tigard Turns the Tide. It is a community coalition, and you want me to give a little history?
Please do,
Okay.
because it's very valuable and pertinent to you.
Oh, thank you, Andrea. Yes. So in 1982, me and another mom, we found our 2 sons drinking during school. They had
Was
skipped
this
school.
little Tim?
This isn't Tim. This is Randy, my oldest.
Okay.
And it concerned us because they both were star football players. And Randy was he was an all-around sports guy from the time he was real little. But anyway, it concerned us. And so I started doing some research and checking on things. And I went to it was a it was I think it was a statewide meeting put on by National Family Partnership, but it was downtown Oregon, and it was all about building coalitions.
You mean downtown Portland?
Downtown, what'd I say?
Downtown Oregon.
Downtown Portland, sorry. Yes,
okay,
downtown Portland. It was at a, I don't know, it might have been, it was at a big center there.
Okay.
But there were, hundreds of people. But they talked about prevention, and they talked about grassroots, about really what we can do to help our young people, preventing them from, turning to drugs and alcohol, for whatever reason. And I became so interested and really dived into it. And I wanted to start a coalition in Tigard. So some time went by, and this was probably in the, maybe it had to be in 1982, 83, because we held our very first drug and alcohol free grad party in June of 1984. So anyway, I started a task force. I got parents together, people that we knew. This other parent was a part of it for a while. And I really faced the fact that my son had an issue. So I kind of forced him into going in and getting an assessment, because that's what the counseling that I got was to have him assessed. And sure enough, he was into the beginning to early stages of addiction. And he was very humble about it and also very willing to get help. And so I was so thankful for that. And so starting this task force, bringing families and parents together, we got over 100 parents together in the cafeteria at Templeton Elementary in Tigard. And that's where I introduced all the ideas that I had heard. Oregon Free from Drug Abuse, which then became Oregon Partnership, which is now Lines for Life. I was a founding member of that group of Oregon Free from Drug Abuse. They had given me pamphlets and stories and a movie to show, and the parents were all gun-ho about forming this coalition and really doing something for our youth. And that's where Tigard Turns the Tide got its start. In fact, it was my husband that named the name. And so where it comes from is Tigard Turns the Tide is over here you've got 10 to 20% of kids that will never use. Over here, you've got 10 to 20% of kids that will use. And then you've got 80% of kids in the middle that can go either way. So why not get those kids turning to the fact that they'll never use, And so that was what we based our name on. And we became a 501c3 in 1984 under the direction of National Family Partnership. And we put on our very free drug and alcohol-free grad party for the first time. And we were one of the very first high schools in Oregon to do that. So what we did is a couple of us went to a meeting, a statewide meeting about putting on a grad party and what was needed. So we just went to work, and we did a presentation to the school board. We had a lot of night meetings at different schools to talk about what we're trying to do. My husband and I, we put on our grubbies, and we went into a paraphernalia shop. At that time, paraphernalia was legal. And I bought all this paraphernalia, and I went around showing different groups, and I went to like Optimist, Kiwanis, Rotary, church groups, our PSOs, putting on a little presentation about the paraphernalia that's available and the purpose of why parents need to be involved. Parents need to know what their kids are doing, and that's what having the coalition is all about. And so I did that from 1982. And then I actually, in 1987, which was such an honor, the superintendent asked me if I would come to work for the school district and help organize the drug programs, not so much being in the field of drug prevention, but also be involved in helping to highlight and to bring, to the surface the importance of prevention. And it was amazing, Andrea, the doors that were opened. When one door would close, another one would open. And to this day, and we've always been very, very involved in the national organization, SAMHSA, Talk They Hear You, CADCA, National Family Partnership, also statewide. OHA is involved, other organizations.
Oregon Health Authority.
Yeah, yes, Oregon Health Authority.
Yes.
Also, on a local level, on a county level. I've always been involved in prevention, and we've always been funded through grants, nationally, statewide, county, and then locally.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's all, the purpose is to help our children learn how to cope with life and all the things that they're faced with without turning to drugs and alcohol, and to really help them reach their full potential and to know of their value.
All because of you.
Well, I don't take full credit.
Of course, you've had help, but you championed the charge, so to speak, for 43 years now. Well,
in 2016, I actually had retired from the school district, and we had another Marie Watkins, who was our executive director. And then in 2018, she decided to take another job and left. And I came back, and it was only going to be temporary, but I'm still here. And then just last year in, this is 2020, in 2024, we hired a new executive director, Sunshine. Yes, Navarro Shively, who's doing a wonderful job in taking over as executive director and really directing Tigard Turns the Tide and Communities That Care. We work very closely with Tualatin together, which I also am the founder of, in the community right next to us. And so prevention is my passion. Being able to step down from being executive director gives me the time, the energy, the effort to really focus on the youth.
Yeah, that's your favorite part.
So that's kind of a little bit of the history in a nutshell.
Thank you for sharing all of that. So I guess you kind of already described the STUD Club. What does STUD stand for?
Okay, so we've gone through many names, by the way. So STUD, the youth group, has been around since 1987. Our very first name was POWER, which stood for Promoters of Wellness, Entertainment, and Recreation. Okay, and then in 2006, we became Awesome. I don't know how many of your audience might know of Awesome. It was a statewide organization, Oregon Students Safety on the Move. And it was funded by ODOT. And so we were a part of Awesome. And we've done so many incredible events, activities, trainings over the many, many years. And then in 2009, 2010, it was maybe 2009, 2010, Connie who is a teacher at Tigard High, came. I needed a lot of help. And so she was a teacher at Tigard High, and she came on as an advisor to help me. And we wanted to rebrand Awesome because Awesome was going away. Awesome, actually kind of folded. And so that's when we came up with the initials STUDD, which stands for Stop Tigard Underage Drinking and Drugs. And because of the acronym STUD, sometimes it doesn't always have the best, connotation or, meaning. And so we've often thought maybe it's time to rebrand again. But because not only do we focus on drugs and alcohol, but we focus on mental health and wellness big time.
Yeah.
It all intertwines together. And we really do work on self-esteem and working on helping our young people feel good about who they are, offer lots of opportunities to give service and to give back. And so we might be rebranding, but for now we're STUD.
Okay.
And yeah.
So what kind of opportunities do STUD members receive through their involvement?
Oh my, there are so many. So before COVID, we often attended a lot of trainings. There were a lot of things offered on a statewide and a countywide level. And from what I hear, they're bringing some of those trainings back.
Great.
But just from the high school, because I used to work in the middle schools as well, we had clubs at both Fowler and Tuolity and Hazelbrook, and I think Hazelbrook might still have it. But it's, of course, a different community because that's Tualatin. And so we offer an opportunity for students to take the lead. They actually do and plan a lot of what we do. I come up with different dates and activities, and right now I'm calendaring all the events that we're going to be doing next year.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we start in August, the end of August, and go through June. And for instance, October, we've got National Red Ribbon Week. This is one of the most favorite events that we do that the kids love, and that's going into the elementary schools. We go in and we teach lessons about making positive choices. And it's usually little second and third graders, and the kids just love it. We also, they have the opportunity to speak to our school board, usually in October, and the school board usually adopts October 23rd through the 31st of every year is Red Ribbon Week, National Red Ribbon Week. And they always sign a proclamation proclaiming that Red Ribbon Week for the school district. We also have several trainings that we do, depending on what's happening, what's coming up. I know that last year we did some training around the sources of strength. That hasn't taken off completely. But again, and some of these other trainings that might come up on a state or county-wide, we'll definitely plug into those. Because it's always great for the kids to be able to interact with one another that are having the same goals. Then we have National Random Acts of Kindness Week. We have National Wellness Week. We have Prevention Week. All these different weeks that we adopt different activities and events, often things that we do during lunchtime for the other students to be involved in. Often it's things outside of school. For instance, this past spring we did rock painting, where the kids would paint rocks with little positive messages. And then we took them to Cook Park and we placed them around. So when people are walking or going along a trail, they'll pick up a rock and might say, "You matter," or, "You're important," or "Have a great day." And, that was one really fun, positive activity that we did as well. We did a big kindness tree where the kids would say little positive things about other kids and put them on the tree. And that hangs up in the cafeteria at Tigard High, in the commons. We do a lot of things that coordinate with the school, during the year. So.
Okay. What recognition or support did they receive for their efforts?
So the seniors, because we're known as a national organization, they receive a cord at graduation for being a part of, they have to give a certain number of hours to stud and have to, actually earn it. But that is the big reward. At the end of the year, we hold a big picnic, which we had not too long ago. We had it on the 27th of May, and it's where we honor the seniors, but we also honor all those that are involved, and they're given a little gift. Often they're given incentives, like maybe a Dutch Bro card or something for their efforts, just to say thank you. But often the reward is what they get from giving back.
Uh-huh.
They'll be so thankful for the opportunity, and I just see that glow that comes to their face when they do something that makes them feel good.
Well, it gives them a sense of purpose.
Yes.
Or belonging or meaning when maybe they don't have that in their current life circumstances, either at school or at home.
Yes, and they're given the opportunity many, many times to speak, to give a speech, or to get up and conduct the meeting, and I never force them. It's only if they want to and they feel comfortable, because we have all walks of life, all different ethnic groups in our club, and I'm very sensitive to those that are more quiet, that are there and just want to be a part, in hopes that maybe it can help them get out of their shell a little bit when they see the other kids doing it, and yet a place where they really belong. Our motto is everyone belongs, everyone is welcome.
Mm-hmm. What kinds of bonding or community building moments happen within the group?
It usually happens when we're doing something out in the open. For instance, when we did for the prescription take back day last October, I think it was October, the kids helped to not to collect the prescription drugs, but we, in conjunction with it, we did a hygiene drive for the caring closet. And we've done blanket drives, we've done glove and mitten drives, and seeing the kids interact with one another and just be themselves, having the opportunity to, visit and to giggle and laugh, and that's, I think, where they really bond. It's those times when they're really doing an activity where they're making a difference.
How do you personally model love and leadership for young people?
Andrea, I think by example, because every one of those students know that I love them. So what I tell them at the beginning of every year, and some of them, and I tell them, I know some of you have heard this many times, but I have to state it. I said, I would adopt every one of you as my grandchildren if I could. I said, I'm a grandma. We are generations apart, and I have a lot to teach you, a lot that you can learn from me, but boy, do I have a lot that I can learn from you. You need to teach me. And so we're in this together. And I let them know, and I kind of treat them like grandchildren. I spoil them in the sense that, in a healthy way. I mean, I bring snacks, and at the beginning of the year, I always ask them, we fill out a sheet of paper because I want to know what they like, what are some things that they want to do. I let them do the planning of things, and I let them plan the snacks. What is it that you would like me to provide? So we meet every other week, and I always have snacks there for them. So, that's kind of spoiling them, I guess. But they love it. They love it. And I do give them little incentives from time to time. But also, I've got those that are huggers, so we hug. And there's others that don't. But just by expressing my love to them, I think they really feel it. And it's genuine because I do love them. It's my passion.
What core beliefs, values, or standards do you try to pass on to the students?
Well, I know that some of the most important values is integrity, honesty, caring about others, but also caring about themselves. And the only way to really true that is to truly, honestly look at yourself. What is it that I want to improve? What is it that I want to change and make better? And once that happens, then it's so much easier to give to others. And they're growing. They haven't reached that yet. And so through the things and opportunities I give them, I let them know, and I'm constantly letting them know the impact that they're having. I have teachers tell me, often after an event that we do or an activity, and so I pass it on to them. And so I think learning to really be honest and true to themselves is really an important value.
How can we incorporate more love for ourselves and the world around us?
Again, like I said, it's loving ourselves and also having that desire to give back. Andrea, whenever I get down or I feel sorry for myself, which we all do, what really gets me out of a rut is to go find somebody I can help. Go find somebody that needs somebody that's worse off than I am, and giving back, giving of service. It just does something for me. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if it does that for me, it does that for the kids as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That. I do the exact same thing. What's one loving habit or practice you'd invite all listeners to try once they hear this podcast?
Repeat that one more time.
What is one loving habit or practice that you would recommend or invite all the listeners or anyone watching to begin?
You bet. It's to love yourself. Learn to love yourself deeply and be confident in yourself, because by that, you will have the desire to give back and to love others the way you love yourself.
Do you have any advice on how you can begin to love yourself?
Sure. And I think, digging deep, but also looking at your life, finding those things and recognizing those things that are holding you back. Because there's so much that happens to us that can hurt us. And yet, looking at those, facing those, and recognize those is the first step. Mm-hmm. And then really working through it, overcoming it, so that you can feel good about who you are. Because Everyone has purpose. Everyone has meaning. Everyone is loved and cared for. And I know without a shadow of a doubt from my higher power that everyone in this world is important, has something to offer and something to give back.
Thank you so much, Connie, for everything that you shared today. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your story. It's been a pleasure getting to know you at this level, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting this podcast. Your presence here means the world to me, and I'm truly grateful for your time and energy. If this conversation resonated with you or sparked any questions, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing from each of you. Your insights, experiences, and curiosities always enrich this space. It's important to remember that trauma, often unseen and unacknowledged, can keep us from living fully in our joy. Through my intuitive healing process, I help release the weight of generational trauma, empowering you to reconnect with your true self and experience life in greater harmony. If you feel called to explore this deeper work, I invite you to book a one-on-one intuitive session or even embark on a personalized journey with a Phoenix Immersion, a 2-day retreat designed to support profound transformation. You can find all the details below. For those who've liked, subscribed, or left comments already, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your engagement means everything, and I'm deeply grateful for the connection we're building in this community. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I'm excited for all the healing and transformation we'll continue to explore together. As always, I'm forever grateful for you, and I cannot wait to see what unfolds next. Take care, and until next time.